what we've done? What about all the peace that you pledged your only son? Did you ever stop to notice all the children dead from war? Did you ever stop to notice this crying earth as we make sure?
Chapter 11, Visiting the Hybrids. My first encounter with the hybrid children, and my first glimmer of understanding of what eternity is like. The base we are visiting today is underwater, said Sinhar. We are about to descend way down into the Pacific. What about air? I asked, a bit apprehensive about the idea. Surely Sinhar won't forget I could not breathe underwater, but still. We pass through a lock that is safe for both water and air, said Sinhar, and inside, it's scared for the hybrids, which, just like humans, need air. In a few minutes, we stopped and I assumed, correctly, that we were already inside the base. They are expecting us, said Sinhar. Don't worry about them. They know I can blow the whole place up if they dare to give me any trouble. The spaceship's door opened and I saw that we were inside a huge, hangar-like room. If I had expected a beautiful, aquarium-like window, showing the denizens of the deep playing in their blue environment, I would have been disappointed. But knowing the Greys, I expected nothing of the sort, and so the beige and grey room, all metal and lacking any windows, did not exactly surprise me. This space is enormous, said Sinhar. It is used for many operations, but we will just concentrate on the hybrids today. I was pleased to hear that, since I was secretly apprehensive about the possibility of stumbling on one of the Greys' hellish laboratories. I will never forget, or forgive, what I saw in their lab. But I said nothing and waited to see what was going to happen next. Sinhar walked me to a solid wall, put her hand on it, and the wall shimmered a little and then moved, allowing a door to form and open for us. We entered a long corridor, illuminated by stark, white light, with many regular doors on each side. Sinhar opened one of the doors and we entered a large room, obviously a refectory since it contained extremely long tables, all made of metal. The room was painted entirely in beige, tables, chairs, walls, and ceiling, and had no windows. It was scrupulously clean. Suddenly, the tables opened up, each table revealing a deep groove on each of its long sides. Plates of what seemed to be normal human food were released from the grooves, and placed each before a chair. At this moment, a few doors opened at various parts of the room, and from each door an orderly file of children came in and settled at the table. They were completely silent, not a word was heard, as they picked up their forks and began to eat. None of them paid any attention to us, even though we stood in plain view. The children seemed to range from 6 to 12, but it was difficult to be sure of that. On one hand, they were small and fragile, so I might have mistaken their ages. On the other hand, their eyes gave the impression of almost old age. They seemed wise beyond their tender years. Their hair was thin, their skin was pale to gray, and they all wore white clothes of extreme cleanliness. Despite these similarities, which made them look as if they were all related to each other, I could tell some differences between them that seemed rather fundamental. It was almost as if they fitted within 3 distinct groups. I mentioned it, in a whisper, to Sinhar, and she nodded. Yes, you got it, she said. They consist of early-stage hybrids, middle-stage hybrids, and late-stage hybrids. The first group is born from the first combination of abductees and Greys' DNA. They closely resemble the Greys. Look at their skin, the grayish color is very close to that of the Greys, and so is the facial structure. The second group, the middle-stage hybrids, are the result of mating between these early-stage ones, once they are old enough for reproduction, and human abductees. The resulting DNA is closer to humans, and so they look much more like humans, and many of them lose the progeria gene. The third group, the late-stage hybrid, is the most important. Middle-stage hybrids are mated with humans to create them, and they can hardly be distinguished from humans. Yes, I can tell who the late stagers are quite easily, I said. But there are not too many of them here, right? This is true, not too many are here. A large number of these hybrids, who represent the most successful results of the experiments, are placed for adoption with human families. Are the human families aware of the origin of their children? Yes, in most cases they are. Generally, they are adopted by a high-ranking United States military person, who had worked, or still works, with extraterrestrials, in secret military bases. This happens much more often than most people suspect. The spouse of the military person may or may not know, depending on circumstances and character traits. These lucky hybrids lead a much better life than those who are raised in places like this one, communally. Are they badly treated here? Are they abused by the Greys? No, the Greys don't want to lose them, they are too valuable. But they receive no love, no individual attention, there is no real parenting, and the environment is barren and depressing. They live like that until they are old enough to be of use in the experiments. Not a very nice life for any child. And what about progeria? I mean, for the adopted ones. Only the hybrids who are entirely free of progeria are adopted by human families. We even suspect, though we are not sure, that many of the progeria-stricken late stagers are killed, since their progeria gene is too strong. The Greys believe that after these 3 attempts, it cannot be eradicated by further breeding. And so they kill the poor things. What is the motive for all these atrocities? All for the same reason I have mentioned. They think they somehow will save their civilization. But they are doomed. But in the meantime, they harm, torture, and kill so many people. I don't understand why it is tolerated. Sinhar did not answer. The children finished eating, still in complete silence. Each child, as he or she finished his meal, leaned back into the chair, and as soon as all of them were leaning back, the groove from which the plates came opened up, and reabsorbed all the plates. They now go to an automatic dishwashing machine, explained Sinhar. The children got up, and left the dismal room in the same file arrangement they came in. As soon as the room was empty, large vacuum cleaners emerged from the wall and sucked up every crumb, every piece of debris. Then they sprayed the tables and floor with a liquid that smelled like a disinfectant. The room was spotlessly clean again, ready for the next sad, depressing meal. "Shall we go to the dormitories now?" asked Sinhar. I nodded. We followed the children through one of the doors, and entered a place that was a combination of an old-fashioned orphanage and military barracks. It was a very large room, but the ceiling was not high, only about 12 feet. Again, everything was beige and gray, and there were no windows to relieve the monotony. The room was full of beds, arranged above each other in groups of 3, like in a submarine. Dozens and dozens of such rows seemed to stretch to a very long distance. The beds were made of some metal, very smooth, and of silver-gray color. They seemed to be assembled like prefab furniture. Sinhar, I said, there are no ladders. How do the children reach the upper levels? They can levitate, said Sinhar. Look at this. Part of each bed is magnetic, so each child can have his or her toys attached to it. As for the lower beds, the toys are stored next to them. So they have toys, I said. That's a mercy. Yes, the Greys discovered that mental stimulation is highly important to the hybrid's development. There are plenty of other activities, mostly with abductees, that relieve their lives of the tedium, at least to a certain extent. But they have no privacy at all. None whatsoever. They only get their own room when they are more mature, but they have one thing that pleases them. If the children want to, they can put their things in their bed, close the bed with a panel, and hide it inside a wall. They like that. I wonder, too, if it is not a comfort for them to be together, after all. Their feelings and emotional climate are not exactly human. It's hard to explain. I think it's time for you to see them interact. Where are all the children now? They are attending various activities, said Sinhar. Come, I'll show you. We entered the room that opened directly from the dormitory. To my surprise, it was really a glass bubble. You could see the outside, which was an unpleasant desert surrounding. I found it nasty, but I figured that to the children it might have represented a pleasant change. About 10 children, seemingly between the ages of 6 and 8, sat on the ground, which was simply the desert sand. They were playing with normal human toys, trucks, cars, and trains. They filled the things with sand, using plastic trowels that one usually sees on the beach. They were also building tunnels from the sand, wetting it with water from large containers that stood here and there. They seemed to be enjoying their games, certainly concentrating on them, but their demeanor remained quiet and subdued, and they did not engage in the laughter, screaming, yelling, or fighting that children of this age usually produce. They also have rooms with climbing equipment, and places to play ball, said Sinhar. It is needed to strengthen their bones and muscles. I approached the children, a little apprehensively, worrying that I might frighten the poor things. They looked up at me, seemingly waiting for me to do something, but I was pleased to realize that they were not afraid. I sat on the sand, took some stones that were scattered around, and arranged them so that they created a little road. The children stared at me for a minute with their strange, wise eyes, as if trying to read my thoughts, and almost instantly grasped the idea and continued to build the road together. None of them smiled, but they seemed very much engaged in the new activity. Once all the stones were used, they looked at me again, as if trying to absorb information, and sure enough, after a minute they took the trucks and make them travel on the little road. I got up and let them play. So they can read minds, I said to Sinhar. To an extent, she said. At this age, they basically just absorb images you project. You probably thought about the trucks going on this road, and they saw it. And everything was done together, as if they were mentally connected, I said. Do they do everything together? Yes, everything is communal, even the bathrooms where they clean themselves. But don't be too upset about it. If they are separated from each other before their adolescence, they are extremely upset. It is almost as if the onset of puberty makes them an individual, and before that they have a group mentality. Horrible, I said. They are not unhappy, said Sinhar. Only as adolescents, when they break off the communal mind, they understand how unhappy they are. But we will visit the adolescents on another occasion. Very well, I said. Would you like to see the room where they keep the fetuses? Asked Sinhar. I followed Sinhar to the corridor, and we walked quite a distance before opening another door. We entered another one of the hangar-sized rooms, full of tanks. Each tank contains liquid nutrients, said Sinhar. This is where they put the fetuses, as soon as they are removed from the abductees. The tanks are arranged in order, from the youngest fetuses to those that are almost ready to be removed. Do they separate them into their stages? I asked. Yes, this room is for early stagers only. In other rooms, they have the middle stagers. But the late stagers remain in the mother's womb until birth, to make them as close to humans as possible. And what are the babies like? Quiet, not as responsive as human babies. Many of them die as soon as they are removed from the tank. Those that survive are generally mentally well developed, physically weak, and emotionally subdued. And who takes care of them? Both Greys and abductees. The Greys perform most of the physical requirements, but the abductees supply the human touch. We can't go there yet. How come? We need to prepare you to interact with abductees. They are very complicated. We shall have a few sessions about interacting with them at the same time we teach you how to work with the adolescents. Also, you wanted some instructions of how to contact and help those people that are children of humans and Anunnakis, like your son. This should take some teaching, too. We went back to our spaceship, not saying much. I remember thinking that if I were a member of the Anunnaki Council, I would vote to kill every Grey in the known universe. Of course I did not say it to Sinhar, but I am sure she knew how I felt. Back home, I went to my beloved garden and sat under a tree that constantly showered tiny blossoms on me, like little snowflakes. I did not even know I was crying. "What is the matter?" said Marduk, who suddenly appeared next to me. I told him about the visit with the hybrids. "The hybrids are not abused," said Marduk. "Something else is bothering you." I thought for a moment, and then decided I might as well be honest with him. "Yes," I said. "I cannot understand the Anunnaki's casual attitude about the fact that thousands of human beings are tortured and killed all the time. Neither you nor Sinhar in Anaskamra seem to be as shocked as I am about the fact that the Greys engage in such atrocities." Marduk was quiet for a minute, thinking. At this conversation, we did not use the conduit, because at my agitated state I found it difficult. I was not entirely used to it as yet. So I waited for him to say what he thought. "I see your point," he said. "You think we are callous about it?" "Yes, I do, to tell you the truth. Why don't you destroy the Greys? Why do you allow so much death, so much pain? Are you, after all, cruel beings? Have you become callous because you have lived so many years, and became thick-skinned about suffering? No, we are not cruel. It's just that we view life and death differently than you do. We cannot destroy all the Greys, even if we wanted to. We don't commit genocide, even if they try to do it. But we don't want to kill them. We know that they will die on their own. And in the meantime, suffering means nothing to you? It means a lot, but destroying the Greys would not eliminate suffering in all the universes we go to. There are other species that are even worse. You just don't know them because the objects of their behavior are not humans. It seems to me that even though you are so much more sophisticated than the humans, the fact that you deny the existence of God may have deprived you of your ethics, after all." "Deny God? What makes you think we deny God?" asked Marduk. He seemed genuinely surprised. "Marduk, you have told me, more than once, that the Anunnaki created the human race, not God. So where is God if he is not the creator? Your statements are contradictory." "Not at all," said Marduk. "The Anunnaki view of God is similar to human religions in many ways, but contains much more information. The term we use to describe God is all that is. To the Anunnaki, God is made of inexhaustible mental energy, and contains all creation within itself, therefore representing a gestalt of everything that has existed, exists now, or will exist in the future, and that includes all beings, all known universes, and all events and phenomena. God's dearest wish is to share in the lives of all its creations, learn and experience with them, but while they are imperfect, God itself is perfect, which is why it can only be seen as a gestalt." "Why are you calling God it?" I asked. "Because we do not attribute gender to God." "I see," I said. "So in essence, the Anunnaki God is not all that different from ours. What else should I know? It is possible that other primary energy gestalts existed before God came into being, and actually created it. If so, then the possibility exists that there are many gods, all engaged in magnificent creativity within their own domains. We are not certain if that is so, but we do not dismiss this beautiful possibility." "That is vastly different from human thought," I said, meditating. "But how does it tie up with the life and death issues, and with the fact that you have created us? The individuals that exist within God, though part of God, have free will and self-determination. In life and in death, each is a part of God and also a complete and separate individual that will never lose its identity. The Anunnaki are indeed the creators of human beings, but since each Anunnaki is a part of God, there is no conflict in the idea of their creation of humanity. Creation is endless and ongoing, and human beings, in their turn, create as well, for example, great art, literature, and service to other people, animals, and the planet Earth, though they do not exactly create life as yet. We are all part of the grand gestalt, and that makes all that is such an apt name for God. So how does that make the situation with the Greys' atrocities any better?" It is better because the lives that they take are not disappearing into a void. Each individual is eternal, and even if killed as a child, will go on into other domains. I am not saying that this justifies the Grey's atrocities. I am merely pointing out that even though these atrocities do exist, the individuals affected will have another chance. Yes, this does make a difference, and I can see how it would affect your thinking. But for me, after seeing what the Greys do to humans in their labs, it is still very disturbing. I can understand that, Victoria. It is not something you are accustomed to. Tell me, do you still want to do this mission? He asked his question in a very neutral way, obviously not wanting to influence my free will. Yes, more than ever, I said. Maybe I can do some good for these sad children. I have a suggestion, then, said Marduk. I don't see it as a long-term mission, since you cannot change the ways of the Greys from within. I think you will find it a springboard to other missions, as it is obvious to me that you have some thoughts about making the Anunnaki do something about the Greys and force them to stop the experiments. Doing this mission will be extremely lose its identity. The Anunnaki are indeed the creators of human beings, but since each Anunnaki is a part of God, there is no conflict in the idea of their creation of humanity. Creation is endless and ongoing, and human beings, in their turn, create as well, for example, great art, literature, and service to other people, animals, and the planet Earth, though they do not exactly create life as yet. We are all part of the grand gestalt, and that makes all that is such an apt name for God. So how does that make the situation with the Greys' atrocities any better? It is better because the lives that they take are not disappearing into a void. Each individual is eternal, and even if killed as a child, will go on into other domains. I am not saying that this justifies the Greys' atrocities. I am merely pointing out that even though these atrocities do exist, the individuals affected will have another chance. Yes, this does make a difference, and I can see how it would affect your thinking. But for me, after seeing what the Greys do to humans in their labs, it is still very disturbing. I can understand that, Victoria. It is not something you are accustomed to. Tell me, do you still want to do this mission? He asked his question in a very neutral way, obviously not wanting to influence my free will. Yes, more than ever, I said. Maybe I can do some good for these sad children. I have a suggestion, then, said Marduk. I don't see it as a long-term mission, since you cannot change the ways of the Greys from within. I think you will find it a springboard to other missions, as it is obvious to me that you have some thoughts about making the Anunnaki do something about the Greys and force them to stop the experiments. Doing this mission will be extremely good as a learning experience, right from inside the Greys' base. As for contacting the people who are the children of humans and Anunnakis, that will not take much of your time. There are very few of these around, these days. How long do you think this mission will take me? Exactly 9 months, said Marduk. I stared for a minute and then laughed. I see what you mean, Marduk. You think I should start our daughter, allow her to grow in the tube in the Anunnaki fashion, and while she is in the tube, concentrate on my mission. Then, I should come back and spend some time with you and the baby, before embarking on other missions. Doesn't it sound like a good plan? While the baby is in the tube, there is nothing you can do for her other than look at her as she grows. And you can easily do that with a monitor from Earth, right from the Greys' base. And we will talk every day, so if you have any concerns about her, I can take care of it. This is a wonderful idea, I said. I will have the orientation regarding the abductees and the adolescent hybrids, and of course the human Anunnaki people, and when I am ready to go on my mission, I will first stop at the hospital and start the baby. This plan made me feel a little better, but I knew I must give the issue some more thought, and perhaps further discussion. So when I went to see Sinhar in Anaskamra the next day, to arrange for orientation, I brought the subject up with her, and told her honestly how I felt. Yes, I do understand how you feel, Victoria, she said. Before we do any more work with the hybrid mission preparations, I would like to give you a little background about our relationship to life and death. I would very much welcome it, I said. So let's start with the concept of An'kgh, said Sinhar. I have never heard the word mentioned, I said. This word, which is also used as a haya and a aleph hayat, could be the most important word in Anak, our language, as well as in the written history of humanity, because it deals with several extremely important issues. These are the origin of humans on Earth, how humans are connected to the Anunnaki, importance of water to humans and Anunnaki, the life of humans, proof that it was the original woman who created man, Adam, and the human race, via her Anunnaki identity, the return of the Anunnaki to Earth, humanity salvation, hopes, and a better future for all of us, are gifts to you, as your ancestors and creators. Complicated concepts, I said. I will try to explain the whole concept as clearly as possible, because it is extremely difficult to find the proper and accurate word or words in terrestrial languages and vocabularies. Let's start with the word itself. The word An'kgh is composed of two parts. The first part is an aura, pronounced aa, or a aleph, pronounced elf. It is the same letter in Anak, Akkadian, Canaanite, Babylonian, Assyrian, Ugaritic, Phoenician, Moabite, Siloam, Samaritan, Lakish, Hebrew, Aramaic, Nabatean Aramaic, Syriac, and Arabic. All these languages are derived from the Anak. Incidentally, the early Greeks adopted the Phoenician alphabet, and the Latin and Cyrillic came from the Greek. The Hebrew, Aramaic and Greek scripts all came from the Phoenician. Arabic and most of the Indian scriptures came from the Aramaic. The entire Western world received its language from the Phoenicians, the descendants of the Anunnaki. Anyway, the An in Anak means one of the following: beginning, the very first, the ultimate, the origin, water on earth. This word became Aleph in Phoenician, Aramaic, Hebrew, Syriac, and Arabic. Aleph is the beginning of the alphabet in these languages. In Latin, it's A, and in Greek it is Alpha. In Hebrew, the Aleph consists of two yuds, pronounced yud. One yud is situated to the upper right and the other yud to the lower left. Both yuds are joined by a diagonal vav. They represent the higher water and the lower water, and between them the heaven. This mystic Kabbalistic interpretation was explained before by Rabbi Isaac Luria. Water is extremely important in all the sacred scriptures, as well as in the vast literature and scripts of extraterrestrials and Anunnaki. Water links humans to the Anunnaki. In the Babylonian account of the creation, Tablet 1 illustrates Apsu, male, representing the primeval fresh water, and Tiamat, female, the primeval salt water. These two were the parents of the gods. Apsu and Tiamat begat Lamu, Lakmu, and Lahamu Lakamu deities. In the Torah, the word water was mentioned in the first day of the creation of the world, and the Spirit of God hovered over the surface of the water. In the Chassidut, the higher water is wet and warm, and represents the closeness to Yahweh, God, and it brings happiness to man. The lower water is cold, and brings unhappiness because it separates us from Yahweh, and man feels lonely and abandoned. The Ten Commandments commence with the letter Aleph, Anaki, I am God your God who has taken you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. The letter Aleph holds the secret of man, its creation, and the whole universe, as is explained in the Midrash. In Hebrew, the numeric value of Aleph is 1. And the meaning is, first, Adonai, leader, strength, ox, bull, 1,000, each. According to Jewish teaching, each Hebrew letter is a spiritual force and power by itself, and comes directly from Yahweh. This force contains the raw material for the creation of the world and man. The word of God ranges from the Aleph to the Tav, which is the last letter in Hebrew. In Revelation 1-8, Jesus said, I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the ending. In John 1-13, as the Word becomes Jesus, the Lord Jesus is also the Aleph and the Tav, as well as the Alpha and the Omega. In him exists all the forces and spiritual powers of the creation. Jesus is also connected to water, an essential substance for the purification of the body and the soul, which is why Christians developed baptism in water. In Islam, water is primordial and considered as the major force of the creation of the universe. The Prophet Muhammad said, as can be read in Quran, "Wa khalaqna lakum min al-ma'i kulla shay'in hayy," meaning, and we, Allah, have created for you from water everything alive. The Islamic numeric value of Aleph and God is 1. To the Anunnaki and many extraterrestrial civilizations, the Enori Aleph represents number 1, also Nibiru, the constellation Orion, the star Aldebaran, and above all the female aspect of the creation symbolized in an Anunnaki woman Gbr, whom you know as the angel Gabriel on earth. The angel Gabriel was a woman? I asked, amazed. Unquestionably so, said Sinhar, smiling. She certainly still is. How interesting, I said. But do go on. What about the second part of the word Anhai? The second part, namely the Hayya part, means life, creation, humans, earth, where the first human, which was a female, was created. In Arabic, Hebrew, Aramaic, Turkish, Syriac, and so many Eastern languages, the Anunnaki words Hayya and Hayat mean the same thing, life. But the most striking part of our story is that the original name of Eve, the first woman, is not Eve, but Hawa, derived directly from Hayya. You see, Eve's name in the Bible is Hawa, or Chava. In the Quran it is also Hawa, and in every single Semitic and Akkadian script, Eve is called Hawa or Hayat, meaning the giver of life, the source of the creation. Now, if we combine An with Hayya or Hayat, we get these results: beginning, the very first, the ultimate, the origin, water plus life, creation, humans, earth, where the first was created, woman. And the whole meaning becomes, the origin of the creation, and first thing or person who created the life of humans was a woman, or water. Amazingly enough, in Anak, woman and water mean the same thing. Woman represents water according to the Babylonian, Sumerians and Anunnaki tablets, as clearly written in the Babylonian Sumerian account of the creation, Tablet 1. Well, no wonder then that God has no gender in the Anunnaki concept, I said. I found it very interesting, when Marduk told me about all that is as the name of God. Yes, it all ties together rather nicely, even if it is a little complicated, said Sinhar. A little? I said, laughing. I will have to think about this for a long time before I'm comfortable with the concepts. But it is fascinating. I would like, moreover, to understand a little better how the Anunnaki created the human race. Well, it happened around 65,000 BCE, said Sinhar. The Anunnaki, at that time, lived in the areas you now call Iraq, which was Sumer, Mesopotamia, and Babylon, and Lebanon, which was Lebanon, Phoenicia, or Phoenicia. We taught your ancestors how to write, speak, play music, build temples, and navigate, as well as geometry, algebra, metallurgy, irrigation, and astronomy, among other arts. We had high hopes for this race, which we have created in our image. But the human race disappointed us almost from the beginning, for human beings were, and still are, cruel, violent, greedy and ungrateful. So, we gave up on you and left Earth. The few remaining Anunnaki living in Iraq and Lebanon were killed by savage military legions from Greece, Turkey and other nations of the region. The Anunnaki left Earth for good, or at least that was the plan at the time. Other extraterrestrial races came to Earth, but these celestial visitors were not friendly and considerate like the Anunnaki. The new extraterrestrials had a different plan for humanity, and their agenda included abduction of women and children, animal mutilation, genetic experiments on human beings, creating a new hybrid race, and so on. But you are still there, Sinhar. And you are still trying to help. Obviously, you would not have projects such as you had with me if you had forgotten us. No, we did not totally forget you. We could not. After all, many of your women were married to Anunnaki, And some of our women were married to humans. Ancient history, the Bible, Sumerian texts, Babylonian scriptures, Phoenician tablets, and historical accounts from around the globe recorded these events. You can find them, almost intact, in archaeological sites in Iraq and Lebanon, as well as in museums, particularly the British Museum, the Iraqi Museum and the Lebanese Museum. So how did you keep in touch with human civilization? Before leaving you, we activated in your cells the infinitesimally invisible multi-microscopic gene of NHEA. Yes, this is how it is all connected. It was implanted in your organisms and it became a vital component of your DNA. Humans are not yet aware of this, as they were not aware of the existence of their DNA for thousands of years. As your medicine, science and technology advance, you will be able, someday, to discover that minuscule, invisible, undetectable NHEA molecule, exactly as you have discovered your DNA. NHEA cannot be detected yet in your laboratories. It is way beyond your reach and your comprehension, but it is extremely powerful, because it is the very source of your existence. Through NHEA, we remained in touch with you, even though you are not aware of it. It is linked directly to a conduit and to a mraya, monitor, or mirror, on Nibiru. Every single human being on the face of the earth is linked to the outer world of the Anunnaki through NHEA. And it is faster than the speed of light. It reaches the Anunnaki through babes, stargates. It travels the universe and reaches the mraya of the Anunnaki through the conduit, which was integrated in your genes and your cerebral cells by the Anunnaki some 65,000 years ago. The same conduit I have now. Yes, that same conduit. Of course, humans cannot use it, since it was not activated like yours. But hopefully someday they will be able to. And how do the Anunnaki receive the content of a conduit to allow them to watch over the humans? I asked. Through the mraya which we created to function with the conduit and the NHEA, even though we felt that you do not deserve it. The Anunnaki have been watching you, monitoring your activities, listening to your voices, witnessing your wars, brutality, greed and indifference toward each other's for centuries. We did not interfere, at least not very much. But from my experience, you are returning? Yes. We will, because we fear two things that could destroy Earth and annihilate the human race. The domination of Earth and the human race by the Greys, and the destruction of human life and planet Earth by the hands of humans. The whole Earth could blow up. Should this happen, the entire solar system could be destroyed. For we know, should anything happen to the Moon, the Earth will cease to exist. Is there hope that we will change? There is always hope. We are trying to change you. The most delightful and comforting aspect of it is the hope for peace, a brighter future, and a better life you can accomplish and reach when you discover how to use it without abusing it. Every one of you can do that. I wonder how many humans I know will see such change in their lifetime, I said wistfully. Even when people die, their NHEA will always be there for them to use before they depart Earth. It will never go away, because it is part of you. Without it you couldn't exist. Just before you die, your brain activates it for you. Seconds before you die, your mind will project the reenactment of all the events and acts, good and bad, in your entire life, past, and zoom you right toward your next non-physical destination, where and when you judge yourself, your deeds, and your existence, and where you decide whether you wish to elevate yourself to a higher dimension, or stay in the state of nothingness and loneliness, and for how long. Everything is up to the individual. So there is no death. Our minds live forever. Indeed, there is no death. Your minds live on, and make all the individual decisions about their future. What about reincarnation? Do we return to Earth, ever? No, you will not return to Earth, nor will your soul migrate to another soul or another body. From evidence, we know, not just believe, that there is no such thing. And why would you wish to return to Earth, anyway? Earth is the lowest sphere of existence for humans, everything else is an improvement. It's good to know that you have not deserted us, Sinhar. It makes me feel safer, for myself and for humanity. My dear Victoria, you are now a full Anunnaki, you will never, ever, be alone. But I understand your attachment to your previous fellow humans. There is no reason to worry about them. The humans are always connected to the Anunnaki in this life and the next, and in the future, we plan a much closer communication. So please, go on to your mission with a lighter heart. There is plenty of bright hope for everyone, even the hybrids, I dare say. I went home, feeling much better about life, the universe, and my mission. As a matter of fact, I began to look forward to it as a new adventure. And soon I will have a baby girl, too.